covering one of Australia's most talked about missing persons cases that has gripped the nation for nearly 2 years. This is the story of Samantha Murphy, a 51-year-old mother of three from Ballarat, Victoria, who vanished without a trace on February 4th, 2024, during what should have been a routine morning run. What makes this case particularly haunting is that despite an unprecedented investigation, extensive searches by both police and the community, and a murder charge being laid, Samantha's body has never been found. Today, we'll examine who Samantha was, the morning she disappeared, the evidence police have gathered, and the man accused of her murder, Patrick Orren Stephenson, whose trial is set to begin in April 2026. Before we begin, I want to remind you that Patrick Stephenson has pleaded not guilty to the murder charge and is entitled to the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law. This video presents publicly available information and should not be considered a determination of guilt. Samantha Murphy was described by those who knew her as a physically and mentally strong woman who was completely devoted to her three children. At 51 years old, she was an active member of the Ballarat community, known for her commitment to fitness and her regular jogging routine. Samantha lived in Ballarat East with her family, and on the morning of February 4th, 2024, she did what she had done countless times before she left her home for a morning run through the Canadian State Forest. It was a routine she knew well, a path she had taken many times, but this time, Samantha Murphy would never return home. February 4th, 2024, started like any other day. Samantha left her Ballarat East home that morning to go for a run. She was expected to return, but hours passed with no sign of her. When she failed to come home, her family grew concerned and contacted police. What followed was one of the most extensive search operations Victoria has seen. The community of Ballarat rallied together in an extraordinary show of support. Organised by locals like Chloe Riz, volunteers spent weeks searching the Canadian State Forest, Enfield State Park, and Buninyong Bushland Reserve. These weren't just casual searches. The community was deeply invested in finding Samantha and bringing her home to her family. As Ballarat Mayor Des Hudson noted, the outpouring of community concern wasn't just local. This was a story that resonated across Australia. The case captured national attention, with thousands following updates and hoping for a positive outcome. But despite all these efforts, despite the dedication of volunteers and the tireless work of Victoria Police, no trace of Samantha was found. Days turned into weeks, and the grim reality began to set in that this might not be a simple missing person case. Then, on March 6th, 2024, exactly 1 month after Samantha's disappearance, Victoria Police made an arrest that would shock the community. A 22-year-old man from Ballarat was taken into custody and charged with Samantha Murphy's murder. Initially, the man's identity was protected by a suppression order. His lawyer, David Tamanika, had applied for the order, citing concerns about his client's mental health and fears that he wouldn't receive a fair trial. However, media outlets, including the ABC, challenged this suppression order. On April 12, 2024, after Tamanika withdrew his application for the suppression order, Magistrate Michelle Mikatowicz lifted the order, allowing the accused to be publicly named. The man charged with Samantha Murphy's murder was Patrick Orren Stephenson. So who is Patrick Stephenson? He's a young man from the Ballarat area with a somewhat notable family background. Patrick is the son of Orren Stephenson, a former AFL player who made history as the oldest first-time draftee in the league at age 29. Orren played 8 games for Geelong in 2012 and 7 for Richmond between 2013 and 2014. Patrick himself was involved in the local sporting community. According to reports, he played junior football for the Redan Football Netball Club. He was educated at St Patrick's College in Ballarat before transferring to Damascus College in Mount Clear, where he completed his schooling. In a statement, St Patrick's College said, "Our prayers and thoughts are with the Murphy family and all in the community impacted by these tragic circumstances." At the time of his arrest in March 2024, Stephenson was 22 years old. He was arrested at a home in Scottsburn, south of Ballarat, where he and his girlfriend were house-sitting. Police had reportedly been monitoring him for 2 weeks before making the arrest. Crucially, Victoria Police Chief Commissioner Shane Patton stated that police believed Stephenson was not known to Samantha Murphy or her family. This suggests that if the allegations are true, this was not a crime involving someone from Samantha's social circle, which makes the case even more perplexing. When announcing the arrest, Chief Commissioner Patton provided some limited details about what police believe happened. He stated that police would allege Samantha Murphy died in a deliberate attack in the Ballarat suburb of Mount Clear on February 4th, the same day she went missing. However, beyond this, police have been tight-lipped about the specifics, which is standard practice in Australian legal proceedings to ensure a fair trial. What we do know is that authorities have described the volume of evidence they've collected as unprecedented, which has actually contributed to some delays in court proceedings. Chief Commissioner Patton was clear that despite the arrest, the investigation was far from over. This investigation is far from over, he said. We're going to be continuing to gather further evidence, taking further statements, and investigations will continue at a very heavy pace. While the specific evidence against Patrick Stephenson remains largely undisclosed to protect the integrity of the trial, some information has been made public. First, there's CCTV footage. Police have collected extensive surveillance footage, though the contents haven't been publicly detailed. This footage likely forms a crucial part of the prosecution's case. Then, in May 2024, 3 months after Samantha's disappearance, police made a significant discovery. Samantha's mobile phone, wallet, credit cards, and driver's license were found in a teal case at the bottom of a dam near Buninyong. According to police, her phone was in near-perfect condition when it was recovered. The recovery of these items was clearly important to the investigation, as they could contain valuable digital evidence. Perhaps most intriguingly, Stephenson has been taken under police guard to bushland areas near Ballarat on multiple occasions. These site visits suggest ongoing efforts to locate Samantha's remains. However, it's important to note that police have not suggested these visits mean Stephenson knows where Samantha's body is, and he maintains his presumption of innocence. Following Stephenson's arrest, several search warrants were executed at properties near his home, as investigators continued searching for clues. Excavators were used in some search areas, particularly at Enfield State Park, south of Ballarat. Despite all these efforts, Samantha's body has not been found. While Patrick Stephenson faces the murder charge, there's another aspect of his history that has come to light through the court proceedings. In January 2025, Stephenson appeared in Ballarat Magistrates Court for an unrelated matter, a drunk motorcycle crash that occurred in October 2023, months before Samantha's disappearance. Here's what happened. On October 1st, 2023, after attending grand final celebrations with friends, Stephenson was riding his black Kawasaki motorcycle home. At approximately 1:45 a.m, he crashed on Armstrong Street, South Highway in Ballarat, losing control in wet conditions. The motorcycle slid out from under him. Police found Stephenson lying injured in the middle of the highway. Officers reported having difficulty communicating with him due to his level of intoxication, and he was taken to Ballarat Base Hospital. A subsequent blood test revealed he was almost 3 times the legal alcohol limit and had MDMA in his system. The injuries from this crash were severe. Stephenson spent 2 weeks in hospital with a spinal fracture, broken ribs, a broken pelvis, a lacerated spleen, and head trauma. His lawyer, Moya O'Brien, told the court he was still undergoing follow-up treatment and didn't have a great memory of the accident due to his injuries. In January 2025, Stephenson pleaded guilty to careless driving, driving while intoxicated, and driving with MDMA in his system. Prosecutors noted the offending was more serious because Stephenson was serving a 2-year good behaviour bond at the time for similar previous offences. Magistrate Guillaume Balin fined Stephenson $20,500 and imposed a 28-month licence disqualification, stating, "It is luck alone that no one else was injured or that you weren't killed. But for your plea of guilty, it is highly likely I would have imposed a short term of imprisonment." It's important to emphasise that this crash is completely unrelated to the alleged murder of Samantha Murphy, which police say occurred on February 4th, 2024, several months after this incident. Patrick Stephenson has pleaded not guilty to the murder charge and has been in custody since his arrest on March 6th, 2024. He is currently held at Melbourne Assessment Prison. The case has moved through the court system, and in June 2025, the Supreme Court of Victoria scheduled a trial date. Stephenson is scheduled to face trial on April 8th, 2026. The trial is expected to take place in Ballarat, keeping the proceedings in the community most affected by this tragedy. The trial is anticipated to last approximately 6 weeks. Pre-trial arguments between the prosecution and defence are scheduled to begin in November 2025, with various pre-trial deadlines set for both sides in the lead-up to the trial date. This gives both the prosecution and defence teams several months to prepare their cases. According to his lawyer, Stephenson enjoys the support of his parents and siblings and enjoys contact with his long-term partner while on remand. Despite the arrest and the upcoming trial, one heartbreaking fact remains: Samantha Murphy's body has not been found. This adds an additional layer of tragedy to an already devastating case. For Samantha's family, her husband and 3 children, there has been no closure, no ability to lay her to rest properly. Victoria Police have continued their search efforts. The areas of focus have consistently been the Canadian State Forest, Enfield State Park, and Buninyong Bushland Reserve, all areas near where Samantha was last seen and where police believe the alleged attack took place. Top criminologist Xanthe Mallet, speaking on the morning show Sunrise, explained the significance of the ongoing investigation. "I think it signifies they are still looking very hard for her remains, but given we don't know what has passed between the accused and police in terms of what information may have been said, it is difficult to weigh the evidence. They may simply be testing the last known whereabouts or elements of his story as to what happened." When asked if it was normal to take someone out of custody to an alleged crime scene, Mallet noted, "It is certainly not abnormal, but I'm not surprised by this development. They are trying to talk to him to get as much information to help them with the investigation as possible." Police continue to appeal for anyone with information to come forward. Even the smallest detail could prove crucial in helping locate Samantha and bringing answers to her family. The impact of Samantha Murphy's disappearance and alleged murder on the Ballarat community cannot be overstated. This is a tight-knit community that came together in extraordinary ways to search for one of their own. Following the arrest, the community organised a vigil at the Eureka Stockade Memorial Park in Ballarat. Chloe Riz, who had helped organise the community searches, explained why the vigil was important. "I think it's important to have some sort of a debrief as a community together in person after such horrific news." She said the vigil was also meant to show the Murphy family how invested the community was in their well-being. As criminologist Xanthe Mallet noted, "This is a case that has touched not only the local community, but the entire country. Everyone is watching, and everyone wants Samantha to be returned to her family. They want answers, and ultimately, they want to know who is responsible and why. So the police are working hard behind closed doors to bring answers to all the people with vested interests, least of all Samantha's family." When news of ongoing police work reaches the public, it provides hope. As Sunrise host Matt Shervington observed, "One thing this does, I think it has buoyed the public and family that authorities are not giving up and trying to track down what happened to Samantha." The case of Samantha Murphy represents one of the most significant criminal investigations in recent Victorian history. A mother of 3 who left for a routine morning run and never came home. A community that rallied together in an unprecedented search effort. A young man arrested and charged with her murder, now awaiting trial. And a family still searching for closure, unable to lay their loved one to rest. Patrick Orren Stephenson has pleaded not guilty to the murder charge, and he is entitled to the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. The trial, scheduled for April 8th, 2026, will be the forum where the prosecution must prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt and where Stephenson's defence will have the opportunity to challenge the evidence against him. The 6-week trial in Ballarat will likely be one of the most closely watched criminal proceedings in Australia. Authorities have described the evidence as unprecedented, suggesting this will be a complex case with substantial evidence to present and examine. But beyond the legal proceedings, beyond the evidence and the arguments, this case is ultimately about a woman who deserves to be found and returned to her family. It's about 3 children who lost their mother. It's about a husband who lost his wife. It's about a community that has been forever changed by this tragedy. As this case moves toward trial, we'll continue to follow developments here on Behind the Crime Scene. If you have any information about Samantha Murphy's disappearance, please contact Victoria Police or Crime Stoppers Even the smallest detail could make a difference. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our coverage of the trial when it begins in April 2026. And please keep Samantha Murphy and her family in your thoughts. Until next time, I'm your host, reminding you to stay safe out there.